So we have learned a lot of things in the last lecture. We learned how we can install Eclipse. We learned how we can say download and configure JDK. We learned how we can write up a basic program in Java. We learned about the concept of class file and jar file, and we downloaded Selenium jars as well. And we also configured. Now the thing is, what was left was, say, debugging. So debugging is something that we will be learning in the, say, coming part in this lecture. So now today we will be starting off with the concept of object-oriented programming. So say, what is object-oriented programming and why do we use it and what all things we have here in this. See, the thing is that if you see this code, we wrote a very basic code, right? And the thing is that whenever we write code, we need to have some concept of reusability. Why do we need reusability? The thing is that whenever we say start working with something, we need to have a part of code that is, say, reusable. For example, I need to be dealing with something that has to be reused again and again. I won't be writing the code again and again, right? Suppose this is a component. This is a tool that I use. Now the thing is that in case if I go with this, if I write it again and again, the problem is that this is just a repeated code and it is just wasting memory. It is just wasting the storage space as well. All the things are same. Now it is okay at this particular point. But what happens? What if I need to make a change? For example, the code is same. So say I've written int a equals to 10, int b equals to 11, int c equals to say 12. Now these are the same values which are here as well. Now what will happen if I change the values? Say instead of 10, here the value has changed to 20. Now the thing is that this value should reflect here as well. Or maybe say I need something that the logic should work. Now in this case, what will happen is I need to rewrite the code again. I need to go through with all these things again. Now, in case of classes, in case of objects, what we can do is that I can have something with me. I can have a frame with me, right? Which will define few things. What all things we can define? Suppose I know that I would be using a variable A. I know that I will be using a variable B. I know that I will be using a variable C, right? And there may be a logic, say int d equals to a plus uh, b minus c, where a simple logic. Now what will happen, you just want to provide the values here and you should want to get a result directly. Now how would you be able to do that? Now you can write this logic again and again. You can do something like you can say you can have something with you that will allow you to say perform the same action with different set of values, right? Now what we will be doing is we will be creating a class here that will be allowing us to perform this thing. How? Let us just see that. First of all, we will be creating a new package. Say package. We can create a package like this. How? Let us just see that. Right click on the source folder. Here, go to new. Then there is an option of package. What is a package? As you have learned in the last lecture, a package is something that allows you to group the similar code. So you can group similar Java files in one place. Say this is day 2. I can have the package name, but this is not considered as a valid package name. Why? Because it contains space. A package name cannot contain a space, right? So we can specify something like this. Click on finish. This is done. Now here inside this package, I need to create a new class. I can right click here, go to Java class, and the class will be created. Now what is the class name? Say the class name here is animal, right? Now let us just consider animal as a reference. Now here, the thing is that what all things we can have here? An animal can have a name, say string, and animal can have something that is number of legs. Yes, we can have that as well. So number of, say string or say int, number of legs, right? Equals to, do I need to specify value? I can and I may not. It is up to me. I don't want to specify a value here, right? So here I just specified something. Say there is a class which has something. It has two variables. One variable is name, another variable is number of legs, right? Now here, if I create another class and say I do something here, I create the class named as test animal. Here in test animal, I just want to make use of animal class. First of all, what all things I need? See, I'm trying to run the class test animal. I'm not trying to run the class animal by default. So you may have noticed something. In animal class, I do not have a main method. I'm just specifying two variables here, nothing else. So here in test animal, we will be specifying the main method. Why? Because this is the class which is intended for usage. So main method. Now you may need to write the whole method like this: public static void main, right? And you may get confused with this. There may be a little bit spelling mistake, or there may be something that you skip out and the code won't execute. So in that case, what you can do is you can just type in main and hit control space. Control space is something that asks Eclipse to provide you a suggestion. It immediately provides you a suggestion that there is a main, which is a main method. Hit enter on it and you can see that a main method has been created just for you. You don't need to write this whole method now. You can just specify the content inside it that needs to be executed and you're good to go. Now here we have, say, a main method, but the question is, how would you be able to deal with animal class here in test animal, right? You need to have some logic here so that you would be able to deal with an animal class. Now the thing is that whenever we deal with a separate class, let us just create a reference of animal class here. Suppose this is animal class. It has two things. What all things we have here? Say name and number of legs. So here, this animal class, now whenever we need to deal with this animal class, what we need to do is that we need to create an object. So here, how would we be able to create an object? Creating object is easy. We just need to specify a line of code that will allow us to create an object. And the thing is that we can create any number of objects we would want to have. So what does this mean? This means that we can have a copy of animal class everywhere which has its own set of data, right? This means that I can create an object for this. I can specify separate data here. I can specify separate data here. I can specify separate data here, and I can specify separate data here, right? This means that I can have different values stored. Say name is, say, elephant. The number of legs are 4. Then say tiger. The number of legs are 4, right? Then say another animal, say cow. The number of legs are 4 again. Then say sheep, and again the number of legs are 4. Now the thing is that in animal class we are trying to store different sets of data, right? There is one thing common. What is that thing? Name and number of legs. We're just trying to store information. Now, how we are able to store this information and what we need to do to create this kind of a object. Now, creating object is easy with the help of a single line, with the help of this code, that is new animal and these brackets. With the help of this part, we can create a new object, right? Creating object is very easy. So here, if I write something like this, say new animal, and you can see that the object will be created for me. But the question is, how would you be able to, how would I be able to access the variables that I have inside animal class, right? The challenge is to deal with these things. Now you can deal with these things very easily. Question is how? So what you need to do is that you need to store this object somewhere so that you can have access to it later on. See, with the help of this part, we will be able to create an object. But the thing is that we won't be able to deal with it until or unless the created object has been stored somewhere. This means that by just running this part of line, I have just done the partial work. I need to perform the actions. I need to perform the things. I need to do things inside it. And with the help of this part of line, we won't be able to deal with anything. So what we will be doing is we will be storing this object in a variable which is known as object reference variable. Now question is how we can create that variable and how we can assign an object to it. So this is very easy. Remember in the last lecture, we learned how we can create a variable and assign a value. Now the concept is almost same, but there is a little bit of a difference. What is the difference? See, we created a variable b whose data type was string and we stored the string type data inside it, right? In the same way, what we will be doing is we will be creating a variable, say animal, right? Animal1 equals to this. But the question is, what will be the data type of this particular variable? The variable will be having the data type of the name of the class. So it will be same as the class name. You just provide it and you are done. And you can see that now the error is gone. There is a warning. This yellow triangle shows you a warning. That is the value of the local variable animal1 is not used. So how you can use it? Now as you can see that we have created an object. So this part creates an object. This part stores that particular object that has been created. This means that if I write this line, say animal, say A1 equals to new animal, A1 will be having the object. Now here I can deal with it. How we can deal with it? Let us just see that. So animal 1. Animal 1 can have access to two things, that is name and number of legs. I can specify the name. What name I can specify? I can specify any name, say elephant, and this will work. I can specify the number of legs, so animal dot number of legs, which are 4, right? Now I have stored this information. I can access this information as well. How? Let us just see that. So I will be using a shortcut to write a command, that is system.out.println, and the shortcut is syso. Hit control space and it will be completing it for you. Now what you can do, see in the last lecture we learned about how we can make use of a variable to get the data. Now the variable is name, but the thing is that to have access to this variable we need to have the object reference variable as well. So how we can access it? It is very simple. Animal 1 dot name and say animal 1 dot number of legs. So I have stored information. I can access this information as well. Now here, if I run this code, you can see that elephant and 4 is getting printed. This is okay. Now, the thing is that how would you be able to deal with other objects? The first question that you would be having in your mind is, can we have multiple objects in our code? Yes, we can have multiple objects in our code. Another question, can we have multiple objects of same class in the code? Yes, we can have any number of objects created and we can use those objects. For example, here I will create another object. Say animal, say animal 2 equals to new animal. Make sure that you're specifying new animal here, right? This will be creating the object. What part will be creating the object? Remember this thing. The only thing that will be creating the object is this part, right? Just a second, let me just set the color here. So this part will be creating the object. The other part, that is this part, will be storing that object only. So this means that if you just specify something like this and you try accessing animal 2, say animal 2 dot name equals to, say I would like to specify a name as, say tiger, right? Say animal 2 dot number of legs equals to 4. So we have specified the information, but I have skipped out something important. Would I be able to access these things? Let us just see that. So here animal 2 dot name and then say animal 2 dot say number of legs. Now this is done, but you are getting a prompt. The local variable animal2 may not have been initialized. What does this mean? This means that it is just telling that us that the possibility is we have forgot to initialize the animal2 variable. This means that we have forgot to allot a object to it. This also means that we have forgot to initialize the object, right? What needs to be done? A small line of code will rectify this issue. So new animal. The moment I specify this, you can see that all the problems have gone, right? Let me just cut out this particular part from here just for just a while. And you can see that there are 4 problems. Now, what if you have a bigger, say, code? You can see the problems here as well, which will be listed here, right? You can see that there are 4 errors. Local variable animal2 may not have been initialized and all the say lines have the same error. But the moment I specify this thing and save the code, immediately the problems will fade away. Let us just run this code. We have a shortcut for running the code as well. What is that shortcut? It is control F11, right? So here, what we can do is we can simply run the code with the help of control F11 key. You can see the shortcut listed here. Go to run menu and you can see on the top run control F11, right? We can simply hit this key code, say key combination, and the code will start executing. Just give me a moment, guys. Okay, so here we are done with this. Can we have another class, say object initialize? Yes, we can have another object initialized as well. The same way, animal, say animal 3 equals to new animal. See, the procedure will remain same. Keep this thing in mind. The only thing that is changing is the variable name, and with the help of that reference variable name, we are able to store different things inside the same variables, right? And here I can specify the value as say deer, right? So here deer, and here animal 3 dot number of legs equals to 4, right? And here we can print out the information the same way we printed it out earlier. So animal 3 dot name, and here system dot out dot println animal 3 dot number of legs, right? And if I run this code, control F11, you would notice something. It is printing out all the information that we have recently stored inside it. That is okay. Now, the thing is that as we are creating three different objects here, which three different objects? Object 1, object 2, and object 3. Question is, can we play around with the objects? This means that can we pass on the object to another reference variable as well? Yes, we can do that. Question is how? See, the thing is that the logic behind is that we are just writing this line to create a new object. This means that we are creating a new object and we are storing that inside animal 1. This also means that we can have access to that object with the help of animal 1 variable. What if I say I pass on the object of animal 1 to animal 2? What would happen? See here, what I'll do is instead of new animal, what I'll do is I'll specify something here. That is, say I'll specify animal 1. What will be the difference here? If I run this code as it is, you would see that the values doesn't say haven't changed yet. But the moment I do something here, I again print these values again, right? So here I'm printing these values again. If I run this, you would see that elephant 4, tiger 4, tiger 4, and then deer 4. What has happened then? Let's see that now. First of all, let me just do one thing. Let me just specify new animal here so that you get to understand what has changed here. Here, let us just run this code once again. You can see that now elephant 4 is coming up. So what did happen? See, if I'm specifying new animal here, a new object is getting created, right? But the moment I specify a object reference, the older object reference, so animal 2 is having access to animal 1. What does this mean? This simply means that here we have an object. Suppose we have this particular object with us, right? It has some values inside it. We can have these two things here. Say elephant, and say the next thing is the number of legs, which are 4. Done. The thing is that right now this object has been allocated to animal 1. This means that this object can be accessed by animal 1 only. And the thing is that if any changes need to be made, animal 1 will be permitting, say, allowing us to make those changes. Animal 1 will be, say, will be the medium for, say, for making those changes. Now, what if the same object has been allocated to some other variable as well. Suppose there is another variable, animal 2. See, I can allocate the same object to the animal 2 variable as well. Question is how? Simply by specifying animal 2 equals to animal 1. So animal 1 and animal 2 will be sharing the same object. This means that if I change, say, tiger, say if I change elephant to tiger, it will be changed. The value will be rectified. And the thing is that as I've made the change using animal 2, the same value will be reflected here as well. So what does this mean? This means that whenever we write a code, new animal, what it does is it simply blocks some memory. It blocks a, say, storage in our RAM, which has the provision for two variables, that is name and number of legs, nothing else. Now here we can store values inside it, we can do anything inside it, right? And we can allocate this object to a variable as well. We can play around with these values, we can play around with the objects as well. It is just up to us how we can have access to these things, how we can utilize these things. Now here you may have noticed something. There is something that is not, say, changing. We are changing the names, but there is a variable which is having a stable value. It is just having a common value every time. So what is happening over here? Let us just understand this concept. So here we are creating three objects. So say object 1, then object 2, and then object 3. Now all these three objects have their own variables. We have name and we have number of legs, then again name, number of legs, and again name and number of legs. The thing is that name carries, say, 16 MB RAM. Number of legs carries 2 MB RAM. Then again name carries 16 MB RAM and number of leg carries 2 MB RAM. See, this is just for a reference. These are not the actual values that these variables say block. But the thing is that we are blocking some memory. See, the logic is just that whenever we create a new object, we are just blocking the memory that, okay, we need to have access to these things, just keep it with you. So here again 16 MB and 2 MB, right? Now the thing is that number of legs is just wasting space. How much memory we have wasted? See, out of 6 MB, we have wasted 4 MB. Why? Because it is carrying the same value. Now, can we do something to it so that the value is stored and the memory is not wasted, right? So here we have something that we can do here, and that is, say, we can have a variable specified in a different way. How? If we go to animal class, if I specify something here, that is static. Now you may ask, what is static? Let us just see the change, what change has been made here, and with this change, what has changed all over here. You would notice something everywhere, wherever I'm using a variable number of legs. The thing is that we have to, say, change the way we access this variable, right? Now the variable which is being accessed with the help of an object cannot be accessed with the help of an object. Then the question is how we can have access to this particular variable. If you notice something, if you move your cursor over to this particular point, you can see that the static field animal dot number of legs should be accessed in a static way. The question is what is static and what is another thing. So there is a concept of static and non-static. What is static? Static is something whose value doesn't change based on object. This means that object allows us to store, say, different values, right? This means that object, whatever variable or whatever element object is accessing, that element is non. Why? Because the value is changing. The value is not static. So here, if I specify static, I need to access that variable with the help of a class name itself. This means that here, this was the class. It had two things, say name and say number of legs. If I specify number of legs, I can access it directly. I don't need to ask an object to provide access to it. This number of legs variable can be accessed directly. This means that if I specify something here, say animal dot number of legs, we can access it, right? Here I've done it. Now do I need to specify this line here? I can simply ignore it. And I can ignore it. I can comment it out. Control forward slash the key with the shift. Just say the key on besides shift key. That is the forward slash key. You can just simply hit control and forward slash key, and the line will be commented out automatically. And wherever you are using, say object dot number of legs, that will be changed to animal dot number of legs. Here again animal dot number of legs, and I can remove this part and I can specify animal dot number of legs. Let's store this information. Let's just run this code, control F11. You can see that we are getting the same values again. But the thing is that we are able to save some memory, we are able to specify some value that is common across everywhere. All animals have four legs, right? So why do we need to specify number of legs again and again? We can simply specify that as static, and we can have access to that variable anytime we would want to have, right? Now the question is, okay, we are done with variables, we are done with the basics of object. Can we have functions inside a class as well, and can we access those functions with the help of an object? Yes, we can do that as well. Question is how? So the thing is that here in animal class, what if I specify a, say, function? How we can specify a function? Specifying a function is very easy. I can specify something, say uh, say public. See, whenever we specify something, we need to specify the access specifier. If we do not specify access specifier in Java, by default, that will be declared as public. So here, public, say function name, but for having a function name, we need to have a return type as well. So say void. Void is something that the function does not provide us any value back to us. So here, void. Now, what will be the function name? Say print info, right? Here we have a function named as print info, which will be printing the information. As I have not specified static here, this function will be by default non-static. I can specify the information, say system.out.println, and I can print out what I can print out. I can print out name. I can concatenate stuff as well. Concatenation is very easy. You just need to specify something like this. The content in the string. plus the other content that you would want to print. Say I would like to print the variable name, right? Whatever content is stored inside the variable name that needs to be accessed. And we can specify another thing as well, that is number of legs. Can we have access to number of legs? Let us just see that. So number of legs plus number of legs. It is being accessed, right? Let us just do one thing. Let us just move back to test animal. And here, what I'll do is I'll just comment out all the code. We will be keeping only one object here right now because other objects are not useful for us. Here, what I'll do is instead of printing in this information, I'll just comment out this information as well. I'll just run one command, that is say animal1 dot. Here we have a method. Where is that method? What is the method name? That is print info, right? So animal1 dot print info, and I'll just call it, right? Let us just run this code. Here, if I run this code, you can see that the name is elephant, the number of legs are 4, right? What I'll do is I'll initialize the animal2 class, say animal3. Animal2 has been modified right now. I won't be rectifying it right now, but what I'll do is I'll do something here. I'll print the same content. That is animal say 3 dot print info. I'll run this part and let's see that what happens here. If I run this, you can see that name is there, number of legs are 4 again. This means that we can have access to this particular information without even specifying, say, object dot variable name. See, we are getting data according to the object. See, we have animal3 object. Animal3 object has the name as deer. So we are getting the information as deer only. We are not getting elephant here in whenever we are trying to print information for animal3. This applies for animal2 as well. So here say animal2 and I'll just specify one line here. Animal2 dot print info. Let's save this. Let's run this code. And you'll see that elephant, deer, everything is getting printed. I'll just do one thing. I'll just move this line here now and I'll just uncomment this line. And I would make use of a new object here, new elephant. Say new animal actually, not elephant. What am I doing here? Okay, so here if I run this, you can see that elephant, tiger, deer, everything is being done. Now the question is, can we have a static function as well? Yes, we can have a static function. How? Public static say void and print other info. So here print other info is a variable function which will be having access to what information? Let's see that. System.out.println here name equals to say name. Where is name? If you notice something, even if I'm trying to specify the variable name here, you would notice something. Change name to static. Cannot make a static reference to a non-static field name. What does this mean? This means that, okay, we have a variable which is non-static, but we cannot access that non-static variable inside a function which is declared as static. But we can have information of a static variable inside a non-static function. This is very simple. I can have access to number of legs. It will not cause any of the troubles here. Control Z, what did I do? Here, you can see that there is no problem. But the moment I try to access name, it will cause me trouble, right? If I try accessing this here now, I can access this here. How? Say animal dot print other info. This is a static function, right? This needs to be accessed directly in a static way, and you can see that number of legs equal to 4. Once we have stored information, we can have that information anytime we would like to have, anywhere that has been initialized. What if I don't initialize it? What will happen? You can see that the value is by default 0. So at least once I need to specify this information. I need to specify that number of legs are 4, and once done, we will be able to get that information the way we would want to have, right? This is about functions, this is about variables, static and non-static. Now, there is one kind of a function inside a class which is very important to us. What is that function and what is the functionality of that function? So let us just see that. If I create a function public animal and I don't receive some information here right now, and I just specify this thing. Notice something. If I remove void, I get an error, right? I need to specify the return type. But here, if I'm specifying this function, I'm not getting any error. What is something different here then? First thing, you can notice something. The function name is having the same name as the class name, right? So class name and function name are same. This means that this function is a special function. This means that this function can do something for us that a normal function can't. So this type of function is called as constructor. What is a constructor? Constructor is something that is executed whenever we initialize the object. Suppose I print something here that welcome, okay, just welcome, nothing else, right? So what will happen here? I can do something, I can specify a say demarcation line as well. Suppose I have a demarcation line here, say this is the demarcation line, and I'll print it after printing welcome as well. Here, let's just keep it a bit short, it is very long. Let us just keep it till welcome only, that would be better. So here we have this thing with us. Now let's save this, let us just run this. We ran the code. If you notice something, welcome is getting printed, welcome, welcome, and welcome. Why? If we go back to test animal, you would notice something. Wherever we are specifying new animal, it is just calling that default method welcome, and it is say doing the thing for us, right? Here, what if I just blatantly specify new element? Say I specify it 5 6 times, right? I don't know how many times I have specified it. Question is, can I specify it like this? Yes. Then how would we be, the code will be able to understand that new animal has been specified any number of times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So at first we have specified it 9 number of times. Let us just do one thing. Let us just have a demarcation line printed here. So here we'll get to understand that how many animals have got printed here, right? Control F11, and you can see that here this was the demarcation line. Before that, 9 times we have seen welcome getting printed. This is okay, this is very normal. How it is able to understand that the line is breaking? Semicolon is something that tells the code that the line is breaking. Can we format this code? Yes, that is Control Shift F. This will auto format the code, and we have specified the code in an inefficient way. The moment I use auto formatter, it has kept all the lines in a separate line automatically. Now these are the number of times we have specified new animal, and you can see that whenever I'm initializing the object, It is printing welcome. This means that if I run this, this will do the things. But the thing is that I'm not having access to this particular, say, object. So I cannot reuse this. This is just getting wasted, right? So we do not specify something like this new animal, say new class name directly. We do not create object directly without even storing it somewhere, because that will be a loss of memory, right? Here, this is done. Now, another thing, can we have a, say, constructor which receives some data as well? Yes, we can do that. Here, public animal, right? And here, animal, just a second, what has happened here? Let me just do this. Yeah, public animal, and I can specify something here. I can specify that it receives something. String, say, some info, right? And here, if I print that information right away, say system.out.println, and if I specify something inside this, I can print that some info directly. Whatever information I specified, I can print it. Can we have something like this? Say one constructor without any data in receiving, then another constructor which receives some information. Yes, we can have that. We can do that. Going back to test animal, if you notice something, if I specify some information here in animal 2, I specify A, B, C, D, control F11, you can see that I can actually initialize the object with the information I specified, right? Now, what if I would want to have access to that information in another variable? Suppose what I do, instead of, say, having some information received, what I'll do is I'll receive the variable as, say, animal name. I can do that, right? So here, instead of printing it, what I do is I just specify something like this. Name equals to, say, animal name. This won't work, but to make this work, we can do something. This worked now, right? Here, let's see that. I won't be initializing the name here. What I'll do is I'll specify tiger here. Run this. You can see that now here this is getting initialized. This is printing the information. You can see that there is some information that is not required by us. Let me just comment this part. I don't need print another info here. Let's run this now. First object got initialized. It printed welcome. Then it printed elephant and number of legs 4. Then we initialized another object with the data tiger. We did not specify this line. This line is commented out, and we just printed out the information directly. So it was having the information that we wanted to have, right? And while, say, while the initialization of the class, while the initialization of the object, at that particular time, on the fly, tiger was passed. Tiger was stored inside the variable name, and then we had that variable stored with us. We just used that variable to print the information. This means that even if I don't access it right like this, if I just access it like this, and I comment out all the other code, we don't need it right now, right? So I'll just comment out this code. Let us just run this. You can see that tiger is getting printed. I can specify the name here. Say tigress. Control F11. It will be printing in the information that we are providing it, right? So here, this means that we can play around with the constructors. We can play around with the functions. We can play around with the variables. It just depends on us how we would be using this information. Now the question is, everyone will be having this question in mind, that why we are learning animals and all stuff, why we are learning objects when we have to learn Selenium. The thing is that here, now let us just create a new class, that is, say, test Selenium, right? Here in Selenium, in this particular class, we will be having a main method so that we can execute this main method. This is very important. Now, to work with Selenium, to work with some browser, for example, to deal with Chrome browser, or to deal with Firefox browser, or to deal with, say, Edge browser, how would we be able to deal with that? Now we have in reference libraries, you would see that here we have some classes, right? For example, if I go to this, say, Selenium Chrome, right? We have Chrome driver.class. Let us just make use of this Chrome driver class. New Chrome driver. The moment I specify this, this will be doing something, right? There is a constructor for this class which will be executing, and you can see that the moment I specified new Chrome driver, the browser opened. Although there is a problem here, we will be rectifying that problem in the coming lectures, right? But the thing is that you can see that the browser was opened. In the same way, I can open Firefox browser as well. So here Firefox driver, right, for Firefox browser. Control F11 and you can see that the browser will be opening. It has opened with just a single command. I did not go into my start menu or in my system and open Firefox browser. The code did it for me. So what we can do is we have to create objects for things inside Selenium. So we need to know that how object is created. We need to know that how object is accessed. Now, if we refer to the official documentation, say selenium.dev, and here if we refer to the downloads, then we scroll down a bit and we go to API docs. API docs is a place where we can read all the information regarding the things provided by that particular library. Selenium is a library that we will be using, right? So here we use something from Chrome. So let us just move to Chrome driver directly. So this is Chrome driver. Here Chrome driver is something that allows us to open the browser, right? To deal with Chrome browser, you can see that a web driver implementation that controls Chrome browser running on a local machine. This class is provided as a convenience for easy testing the Chrome browser, right? We can deal with Chrome browser with the help of this class. What all things we can do with this particular class? So there are some methods specified by this class. What all methods are specified? Let us just see that. Let us just scroll down a bit, right? So there is a default constructor, creates a new Chrome driver using the default server configuration. This is the, say, constructor that we used, new Chrome driver, and this worked. There are some other options as well that we will be specifying in the later time. And here now the thing is that we have some methods. These are the methods that we can use. So there are a lot of methods. One of the most common methods is to open the page, to click, and other things that we will be learning about in the coming lectures. So this was for today's lecture. If you have any queries, you can feel free to ask.
Sir,
Yeah,
what it means? You define the static variable like number of legs in the example.
right,
Okay. If I want to means it is in a package. I mean, it is in a class.
right.
Uh, yes. Uh, and you are printing it from it. If I want to change it means for one object, I want to I make it here. For one object means I created here means it is saving 2 MB, but I want to change it. I want to change it for different animal means different animal. It will be changed means as a global
So
variable.
yeah, I got a query. The thing is that in that case, if you feel like the value will be changing according to the animal, right? Then what you can do is you can
Yes.
simply remove static here, and what you can do is you can access it directly. That is with the help of a object. Animal to dot number of legs. You have that option. The thing is that in case if you have something that is common across all the objects, right? Then in that
Okay.
case you can specify that as static.
Okay, I got it.
Got
Okay.
it?
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Any other queries, guys?
I mean, I have a question.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so in that case, if we can we initialize that number of legs in the class itself
Yeah, we can do that. I
instead
did
of
not do that. We can do that here as well. If I specify equals to 4, it will be done. I don't need to
okay.
specify that value here then. It will be by default 4,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So if you notice something here now, let me just print out the number of legs only, nothing else. Notice something, the whole code is empty. I'll just print number of legs. So number of legs is here in this line. Let us just run this code. You can see that 4 is getting printed. So I can hard code the value here as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Say if I specify something like this, new animal with the information specified inside it. This is a parameterized constructor, right? So this will be calling out this one. The information will be going in here, and this part of code will be completely skipped off. Only one function will be executed, but this will be executed by default. You cannot control that this function will be executed or not. You have the control over here in these functions. If you want to run this function, you can. If you don't want to run this function, you can simply skip it off. But this is something that you have to deal with, right? In case if I specify something else here, for example, I specified two things. I specified two input data, right? Say 1, 2. It will not accept that. Why? The thing is that the constructor animal string int is undefined. We do not have that constructor. I can create that constructor. This will be creating that constructor for me. But the thing is that by default, I have not initialized it, so it doesn't know what to do with that information, right? So here, the thing is that we have that option of calling in these methods, but we do not have any option of calling out these constructors. We can simply call these functions only and only while we are creating the object. After that, we cannot call these methods. We cannot call these functions. These will be called only at the time of the initialization of the object, whenever we are creating a new object. Okay,
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
just try it once. And if you still
Yeah.
have queries, you can feel free to ask me in the next lecture as well. I won't mind any kind of questions. I want all of you guys to practice these things. I want you guys to be ready with questions so that in case if you have any doubts, I can clear those doubts out before starting off with the say the subsequent part, because you wouldn't be able to understand those things then. Okay.
Okay.